Good morning. My name is Bonnie Marmer, and I'm co-president of the Point San Pedro Road Coalition. I am pleased to welcome all of you to our annual community meeting webinar. In the time of COVID, we are so sorry we cannot be with you as we have been for so many years in the past for our traditional meet and greet Mahoney of Madison and Company Realty. We've been so lucky to have many years of interaction with one another. And here we will do our best to provide that interaction virtually. We are also pleased that for the 6th consecutive year, our representative on the Board of Supervisors, Damon Connolly, will be here to talk to us about all things county. And for the first time, we have a new mayor, or mayor-elect Kate Colin, who will be with us, and a new fire chief, Darin White. So we are very much looking forward to all the information that we will be soaking up through this event, and looking forward to submitting questions to them about issues that affect our community. It's a real opportunity to have a spotlight on all things Point San Pedro Road area. And so while people are logging on, I see we are getting more participants every minute. I am wondering if our technology will allow the kind of, instead of a meet and greet, well, if we can have a few minutes to kind of get a census here. It's census time, and I am curious how many new folks we have in our audience today. How many folks have never attended one of our meetings? Since we've been announcing our meetings on Nextdoor, we seem to be broadening our audience. So we have a lot of folks on our email list that we email. They are regular attendees at our events. But when we post on Nextdoor, sometimes we get new people who may not have attended other coalition events, and we welcome all of them. If there is a way on your screen to raise your hand to indicate if this is your first ever coalition event, please let me know by raising your hand, and I'll see if I can see that.
Click on the raised hand icon.
I am seeing a few. Yeah, they're popping up here. First time. Well, welcome to. Oh, there are a number of people. So welcome. I'm so glad that you have joined us. One other question that I have that's always something that is of interest to me, as I reside in unincorporated San Rafael, and we have a lot of neighbors who are within the city limits, and then others who reside in unincorporated areas such as in Bayside Acres and in Country Club Homeowners Association area. I'm wondering, first of all, if you can raise a hand to let me know whether you live in the city, within the city limits of San Rafael, so I can get an idea of how many people live within the city of San Rafael. And I am seeing all these raised hands here. Wow, there are a lot of San Rafaelians. Is that the proper term? I'll let people continue. I don't know. I see some people who are in San Rafael that I know they're in San Rafael. I see familiar names, but they have not yet responded to the questions. So, all right. So let me just ask it the other way. If you would please now. I'm still getting more responses to the first question. Okay. So if you put your hands down from the city residents, and we'll move on to county residents, those folks who live in unincorporated. Let's see. I'm seeing a lot of familiar names. Welcome to all of our old friends. I'm seeing a lot of new names, and that's great. So we are up to 66 participants. And thank you. And that's all interesting data for us. Speaking of data, while people continue to sign on, one other thing I wanted to ask is if for those of you, the new folks especially, and even the folks who've already been on our email list, we have been trying to accumulate more information, largely for disaster prep reasons, but for other reasons as well. It's helpful for us to know who you are, where you live, so we can be in touch with you when we have issues that really affect your specific neighborhood. So if you are not on our email list, please go to sprcoalition.org and get on our email list. You can go there, you can sign up to get our emails. We try not to email too often. We really restrict the number of emails that go out, but we do want to be able to reach you with important announcements. And so if you will do that, that would be great. You can give us your address, you can give us your HOA, you can give us your contact phone numbers. Those things aren't required, but they are appreciated. So if you will do that, when you can, please do that. And if you are already on our email list, we also would like you to update some of that information, make sure that we have all the information that we need. So next time you go to the website, please make sure we have updated information and accurate information. So that would be, again, appreciated. When you're at the website, there are updates. I'm going to let Alan Shavitz, our webmaster, talk about our website more later in the program after our speakers have done their presentations. So he'll be talking to you about that. Also, I just wanted to mention that if you are wondering what's going on in our community or even beyond our local community, we often post things of interest that we don't email out. So sometimes we'll post something we think, oh, this should be interesting, but oh, we don't want to send too many emails, so we'll just put it on our website. So remember, go check there. There's just a lot of information that you may not catch otherwise. So we try to keep you informed, and that's our purpose here. Educate and communicate and really provide information so that we and our community can be engaged. And toward that end, I'm looking forward to hearing the presentations of each of our speakers. They really make it possible for us to be an engaged community. And as I mentioned, Supervisor Damon Connolly has been doing this this is his 6th year. In a way, he needs no introduction, but I am pleased to give him one. He has been working hard on such a great range of issues for all of Marin and for our community. We do meet, our board members meet with him regularly on a quarterly basis. We also get his newsletters, updates, and he helps keep us abreast of lots of issues that way. And he is someone who is very approachable. We can contact him with questions and concerns. He's always there for his constituents. So with no further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Damon to kick it off for this morning. And welcome, Damon. Thank you again for being here.
Good morning, everyone. I guess that qualifies as a grand entrance in this day and age, right? I'm clicking my video icon. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, and wanted to start by thanking Bonnie, Alan, and the whole Point San Pedro Road Coalition for hosting this event. We're meeting online this year, as we all know, and as much as I enjoy seeing everyone on the big screen, very much looking forward to being able to meet with you again in person one of these days. But great to be able to participate today. Thank you, everyone, for the sacrifices you're all making. This is obviously a very tough time, taking a toll on us individually and our families, but everything you're doing is allowing us to get through this together. So with that, I thought I'd start with a quick COVID response update, which is obviously top of the mind, particularly as we head into the holiday season. We have made some great strides, and of course, in October, we moved to the orange or moderate transmission tier after working our way through the tiers, which allowed for greater reopening. Unfortunately, though, more recently, the low number of cases has started to increase, not only here in Marin, but of course, regionally and indeed nationally. So earlier this week, Marin County Public Health, and most notably Dr. Matt Willis, who we're now very much all familiar with, who's doing a great job, asked businesses, in particular restaurants and movie theaters, to scale back their indoor services. On Tuesday, November 17th, those voluntary requests will become mandatory. Our case rates are moving from the orange tier back into the red tier as things stand. So we're trying to get ahead of that curve and see if we can maybe nip this in the bud. As case rates have nearly doubled in the last 10 days and continue to rise, our public health team predicts that at the current rates of increase, Marin will actually move back into the purple tier in the next few weeks if we don't stay vigilant. So we need to continue our efforts together as a community to protect our health and wellness. Our response to this pandemic could not have happened without our essential workers in healthcare and a wide range of business sectors. Very heartfelt thanks to them, and we're profoundly grateful for their service. So it is important that we all practice social distancing, hand washing, and wear masks. And thank you again for doing so. Of course, a key part of this is making sure that our local economy recovers in the best manner it can. That's hand in hand with what we're doing here in our recovery process. In early May, Supervisor Judy Arnold and I began weekly meetings with civic and business leaders and chambers of commerce to steer what we're calling the Marin Economic Recovery Task Force. We set goals to develop a long-term strategic plan for economic recovery and vitality, to share vital information with stakeholders, and to advocate at the state and federal level and support local efforts. The task force to date has facilitated small business grants, worked to streamline outdoor dining and parking modifications, you probably noticed that downtown, clarified state guidelines, set up pop-up testing for essential workers, applied for grant funds to develop a strategic economic plan, and more. In short, the group offers a two-way street between local business leaders and public health officials. We know that success in our recovery will depend on our ability to work together. And I'll say, as personally a glass half full person, I look forward to these conversations and partnerships. So some quick specifics. We are now working to increase access to capital for small businesses, especially businesses in underserved communities. What we as a community can do, of course, and this goes for all of us, is spend our dollars in our community. As you do holiday shopping, please consider supporting Marin businesses over online retailers. Most of our businesses have curbside pickup and many have delivery. Next time you're purchasing a new car, and I may be doing that today with my wife, we'll see, a tank of gas, something to wear, or something to eat, please shop local Marin. I put that in caps. Let me move to disaster prep and response, another key issue we're facing. Starting with fires. And we'll hear Santa Fe Fire Chief Darin White speak about the fire safety efforts and preventative strategies, along with the coordination that is happening amongst agencies countywide toward prevention. That's really key. Wildfires have been an ongoing challenge, and we need communities to be prepared. Of course, this year we faced the Woodward fire in Point Reyes, and we saw the devastating impact of wildfires statewide with gray and orange skies. I had the opportunity for a rather eye-opening and firsthand experience to see the impact of wildfires in East Santa Rosa through the Glass Fire, including the risk of house-to-house spread. I can't overemphasize that enough. Literally, as we went down streets, you would see one house completely burned out next to another house completely standing intact. What was the difference? Well, it was really that certain homes had been hardened, had defensible space, and used fire escaping, protecting themselves better. It was that simple. I'll note for Chief White's benefit, we also had a situation nearby in Napa where actually me, Supervisor Katie Rice, and our fire chief, Jason Weber, actually were first on the scene where a house was being imminently threatened by a fire. So we called in engines. For the record, we had our shovels ready. We had a portable water tank ready to go. But it was truly kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity to see not only the work that goes in on fire prevention, but also what really needs to be done to minimize our risks going forward as a community. So I'm going to be on top of that. Thank you, everyone, every neighborhood who's stepping up to participate as Firewise communities. We actually in Marin have the distinction of the most such communities anywhere in the United States. All good. And let's keep it up with the defensible space, planning community chipper days, and work with your neighbors to protect yourselves and your surrounding community. Sea level rise, an emerging threat and a key priority for the county of Marin. I'm pleased to sit on the Bay Wave Steering Committee. This is a group of representatives from cities and towns, elected and staff, who meet monthly to share projects and opportunities regarding sea level rise adaptation. We have several projects taking place, including restoration plans for Bothien Marsh in southern Marin, Tusconia Marsh near the canal, and McGinnis Marsh, which is in my district and very proud of. On the sea level rise mitigation front, Drawdown Marin has identified local projects to support and drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We will have an updated climate action plan and an update on Drawdown Marin coming to our board in December. So very proud of county staff addressing both adaptation and mitigation and working collaboratively on many projects with the city of San Rafael, a key partnership. China Camp, just down the road, we are continuing to address sea level rise and the need to elevate North San Pedro Road in low-lying areas in that area. When this road is impassable, and we all know it out in that area when it floods, the communities at either end of the road lose an evacuation route. This is a public safety issue. So we have a partnership with the National Estuarine Research Reserve to actually study the situations and the baylands along this road, helping to facilitate and identify options for short-term and long-term improvements. This year, we applied for an EPA National Estuary Program Coastal Watershed Grant through the Restore America's Estuaries to continue this important work. So the goal really is to improve the road, particularly with an eye toward future disaster scenarios, but while doing so, actually improve the bayland. entrance actually enhance habitat in that area. You may have seen some initial work going on if you've recently taken a trip near Miwok Meadows. There's some equipment there. In September, our Department of Public Works started phase 1 of rehabilitating 6 culverts and the nearby shoulders in Chinacamp. And those repairs will go toward that assurance of safer roads and facilitate the natural tidal flow of water in and out of the marshland on both sides of North San Pedro Road. So more to come, much more to come on Chinacamp in the upcoming months. I want to turn to a couple of larger issues, and then we'll get really specific at the end with some Point San Pedro issues, including the quarry. On the regional front, homelessness continues to be one of our most vexing issues, but some good news to report. Our new mayor-elect, in fact, Colin, will share more about homelessness efforts in just a moment. But I want to quickly share that the county this week approved the purchase of 2 new buildings, 3301 Kerner Boulevard and 1591 Casa Buena Drive, the latter in Corte Madera. We ambitiously sought 3 sites, including the Inn Marin of Novato, and we're able to reach an agreement on 2 as part of the statewide Project Home Key, which is actually encouraging localities, and this has been a goal of ours for a while, to look to actually purchasing hotels, motels, office buildings that can then be used toward permanent supportive housing for our homeless population. So this is a hard-fought victory towards addressing homelessness by securing the 2 sites, and will allow us to continue to build on our housing first coordinated entry strategy in prioritizing the most vulnerable residents on our streets. A very closely related issue, of course, as we see folks on the street, are behavioral health issues as well as substance abuse issues. I'm in particularly focusing very much on the mental health component of criminal justice. Right now, we have a revolving door where folks on the street end up in the back of an ambulance or a police car, they go to jail, they go to a hospital, they're back on the street, and the cycle continues. We want to break the revolving door. So one key strategy is our program through the Mobile Crisis Unit, which actually brings mental health professionals right onto the street where clients are, whether in their homes or literally on a corner and are in crisis. The problem is right now, the Mobile Health Crisis Unit only operates from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. And we know crisis oftentimes occurs in hours outside of that. So the good news is we were able to secure a grant through school related approaches where the hours have now been increased from Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday 1 to 9, and the grant is through June 2021. We're going to continue to push to make those expanded hours permanent, and in fact, even look at some sort of 24/7 approach if that is warranted. So additional geographic coverage, additional teams. We're going to continue to work with our Health and Human Services partners and the court system on that strategy and many others. So more to come on that. Let's turn to transportation and traffic. Of course, we're in a state of flux right now. We all know that. My sense is I think traffic is increasing in our neighborhoods again, to some extent also on the freeways after a significant lull during the pandemic. So we have to start thinking ahead. Of course, all this is probably related to in what fashion does our economy even recover or take shape going forward. That will have profound impacts on how people work. Are they working more at home on a permanent basis? What are the implications of that for our transit systems? As an example now, ferry ridership is down 97%. Golden Gate bus ridership down about 90%. Golden Gate, Marin Transit, our local operator, a little bit less, and that reflects, a lot of folks who are still doing essential jobs, et cetera, are transit dependent. But even there, it's down about 80%. That's not always going to be the case, though, and I think my sense is traffic is coming back. Would love to hear what you're seeing out there. So some notable things. We know that there is a circulation issue through downtown San Rafael. There needs to be better coordination with SMART. That is occurring with the city of San Rafael and the SMART system. The transit center in downtown San Rafael is going to be relocated. There are currently 3 alternatives being considered for that. And a note on Thursday, November 19th at 5:30 p.m., the project team will be available to answer questions on the 3 alternatives being proposed for that transit center relocation. So please tune in to that. It's being spearheaded by Golden Gate Bridge, which owns the property. However, the city, county, SMART, Marin Transit, et cetera, are all involved in the process. On the road safety front, you may recall a 45-foot wide section of retaining wall along Point San Pedro Road collapsed last year on December 3rd under a landslide caused by heavy rain. The county coordinated with the city of San Rafael DPW and a geotechnical engineer to assess the condition of other retaining walls along Point San Pedro Road. They evaluated other retaining walls in the unincorporated areas, and none were found to be in a condition that would warrant any remedial action. So the county will continue to monitor these walls periodically to check for any change in condition. So I'm pleased, though, that specific work is complete, and again, would welcome any feedback. Let's turn our attention to the quarry. One of the roles of the county is to monitor activities, review logs, and confirm conformance with permit conditions of approval. And the quarry is right now in substantial conformance with the laundry list of conditions. We will continue to partner to address any questions and concerns. Some notable points at this time. The quarry finished year 3 of the reclamation plan. After 2 years of good air quality, well below state and federal thresholds, additional monitoring is not being required. The county has found that there has been no exceedance on sound. The on-site asphalt grindings are being transported unprocessed to Richmond at 10,000 tons per year for 3 years. I know that's a specific issue of interest to many. Our avian friends, namely a raptor's nest found on site, were demarcated and are protected during grading. The CEQA process is now moving forward on the quarry's request to actually extend the duration of their operations. We expect to have preliminary results available in the spring. This study will provide us with better information about the environmental impacts of quarry operations on the environment and the community. And just this week, the board signed a contract continuing seismic monitoring, ensuring that the quarry operations aren't being felt at home. So that's not a complete list. The county, the Point San Pedro Road Coalition, and the quarry Continue to work collaboratively. That's really the key. And you have my word, we'll stay vigilant, hearing and addressing concerns to ensure health and safety. Finally, just a couple of really local issues. One is Bayside Park along Point San Pedro Road. Along the waterfront, Bayside Park offers expansive bay views enjoyed by the surrounding neighborhoods and visitors. Over the years, due to exposure to nature, the elements in public use, the park is in need of rehabilitation. So our DPW, the City of San Rafael, Marin County Parks, and others have partnered to restore and improve the park. The park needs accessibility upgrades, including properly graded paths and sidewalks, new benches and accessible adjacent pads for wheelchairs, new trash receptacles and accessible parking space. Landscaping improvements and eco-friendly irrigation will also be implemented. Tree layout will be modified to prevent future root uplift of paths so that the new pavement remains accessible to all for years to come. So I want to thank community members and the coalition who gave us a call to ask for an opportunity for input. As I share with my team in government, it is not enough just to do the work. We must communicate it to the community members. It's part of our business. I'm glad the county was able to work together and meet community members, hold a public meeting, and address concerns. The project is now going through the permitting process. The revitalization is expected to cost about $875,000, and construction would begin in February and end in the summer of 2021. Just wanted to mention one final thing of note, and then would love to hear any other additional issues on your minds, but that is the St. Luke cell tower. This year, I'll say we had a small victory against an AT&T cell tower proposed on St. Luke's Presbyterian Church. The proposal to build a new wireless communications facility disguised as a 12 by 12 foot wide, 33 foot high bell tower with 9 panel antennas and 15 relay radio units on St. Luke Presbyterian Church grounds was denied in October. AT&T proposed a site in the least preferred location under the Marin County Telecommunications Facilities Policy Plan, of course, because it's very, in fact, adjacent to residential areas. Small cell tower installations implicate federal regulations, and the county is limited in our ability to exercise local control. The county has had to strike a difficult balance given the current state of federal law through FCC regulations. So I remain vigilant and cautiously optimistic. I will continue to fight to ensure that community voices are heard and the public is protected. So with that, thank you again for inviting me. It is great again to see everyone here virtually. Looks like we have a great crowd. And I want to thank Bonnie and Alan for bringing us together. Thanks again, and I look forward to your questions and comments.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Connolly. We really appreciate it. We're getting some accolades coming in here. I think we have an appreciative audience here with some questions. So I will try to facilitate that Q&A for you so we can move on. We have a lot to cover today. So first of all, Henry Warren writes, terrific presentation by Supervisor Connolly, and I agree. Thank you so much. It's very much appreciated by him, and I'm sure I join in that, as do other attendees here today. Henry writes, following last year's lengthy PSPS events, many citizens and municipalities were concerned about lack of effective power backups for cellular towers and antennas. At a local community meeting, last year's coalition annual meeting, it was said, he thinks by you, that the issue would be a priority for you. What changes have been mandated by government, if any, and what changes have been made over the past 12 months?
Yeah, great question, Henry. And indeed, that has been a priority. So by state law and also local regulation, backup generation has been mandated. So that is coming online. One issue, getting a little bit into the weeds, is right now that is primarily traditional generation sources. We're even looking at ways of ultimately greening that up, if you will, and making it renewable energy supplies. But the balance there, of course, is it has to be reliable and has to be able to come online immediately. So right now, I can report that by virtue of new laws that have come online, that those steps are being taken.
Okay, thank you. Next question, it was regarding the quarry trucks. This one comes from Jonathan Freeman, and that is about the rules regarding covering those trucks. Jonathan indicates that most trucks he sees are uncovered and they speed. So he wants to make sure that he wants to know whether the regulations are still applicable, the ones that were initially imposed. And I will leave it to you to answer that question.
Yes, they are. So if you see incidents or instances where the rules are not being followed, please just shoot me a line and we'll follow up directly with the quarry. I found that they are willing to be very responsive. So if some of their contractors are not complying, I anticipate that a word from me should be adequate to get that fixed. So Jonathan, thank you. You know where to find me. So please drop me a line in that regard.
I do want to mention a couple of things. One, I know I have noticed uncovered trucks and was initially concerned, but those are the ones that have the big boulders. And those are the ones that don't have to be covered. So if you see the big boulders in there, they're not required to be covered. So that gets confusing for people. Those trucks are washed down before they head to the roadway. And so those trucks are in compliance with the regulations. And I know-
feel free to err on the side of reporting anything though, and then we can just figure it out with the court.
Right, and I want to give a shout out to Amy Dutra, who I believe is here with us today, for her efforts to ensure that her truck marshal does his job and that things are actually going according to the rules. So I do appreciate that the quarry folks do work on that. And I also really agree with you that it is important for our members of the community to report things that they think are not correct so that it can be sussed out and we can find out who might be breaking the rules and get that back on track if they're not following the rules. So thank you. There was a question from Anne Fuchs Chesney about how do we contact the mental health support services if we see somebody who needs help?
Yeah, so and please utilize the service. It's very effective. So there is a dedicated number for the mobile crisis unit online, but again, feel free to reach out to me directly and I can provide you with that information. My email is dconnolly@marincounty.org.
Okay. Parky Heschler, good morning. She'd like to know if the mobile crisis unit is countywide or just in San Rafael.
It's countywide.
Okay. And for me, I think that was one of the most exciting things I heard you talk about today. I mean, that's terrific that is happening.
Yeah, it's a real passion, and I think we're going to make great strides. And it kind of ties into a lot of the other societal issues we've been talking about, right? In terms of, you know, what is the role of law enforcement? How can we maximize the impact of social services and that kind of thing? So this is really where the rubber meets the road. And I think here in Marin, our judges and court system are really interested in finding these kind of solutions. And this committee I chair is unique in that it brings everyone to the table from all these different disciplines, rather than kind of sticking in silos. So it's having a conversation that implicates all these different areas. But thank you. I'm really happy to hear the interest in mobile crisis.
Thank you. At our time, I got to keep us on schedule. We do have a couple more questions, and some of them I think can be answered by other speakers. One is about cell service. Ellen Shavitz is going to answer that later. And one is about the responsibility for fire prevention on the hills in Glenwood. I think perhaps Chief White can address that. And there was one question about the Board of Supervisors position regarding the extension of the quarry's operation. The writer says this is a critical issue. I wholeheartedly agree, but I don't think that we can get into that at this moment. Stay tuned for more on that.
And keep an eye out on the EIR. And of course, there'll be robust public participation.
Okay.
In that.
Thank you so much. It's time to move on to Chief White. Thank you so much again for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Okay.
May I interject just as a moment? This is a disembodied voice of Ellen Shavitz. Just to remind everybody that the Q&A function, the icon that you see is what you can use to ask questions of the speakers or the coalition itself. Thank you.
Okay, so Damon, if you will turn off your video, then we can focus. I think we need that, and then we can focus on Chief White. There is, I just had a comment from someone about our audience. I see that we have 75 participants already here, and I'm actually kind of curious, before we go on to your comments, if we could get folks to raise their hands if they are a couple or more than one person, just so we can get a census here, how many people are here. So raise your hand if you are actually more than one person watching today, so we can know. We do have a good turnout. 75 participants signing up is terrific for our first virtual event. Just thought I would see if we could do that while, if people would do that while I introduce, for the very first time, our new San Rafael Fire Chief. I have to say, I was so impressed by the bio. I had read about you in the newspaper before, but focusing on this for my introduction today just really was a delight to know that San Rafael was so fortunate to find you and get you over here from the East Bay. Your background is so impressive. I know everybody who registered got a copy of it, but I just wanted to mention a few of the highlights that I thought were just terrific. So after your many years in the East Bay, we are so happy you were here in San Rafael. You served as fire chief for the city of Oakland, overseeing 25 fire stations and 60,000 annual emergency calls. That's quite a lot of experience, and a 30-year veteran of the fire service. That's a long time. We're really lucky to have you, especially given that you have a Master's of Science in Leadership with an emphasis in disaster preparedness and executive fire leadership, and a Bachelor of Science in Fire and Emergency Service Administration. So what an educational and experiential background to bring to our community. With no further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Chief White. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the great introduction. And I'd like to basically thank Supervisor Damon Connolly for his excellent presentation. I feel about 6 inches tall now. I'm not sure how I'm going to measure up to that presentation he just gave, but I'll certainly do my best. But I do want to acknowledge his and both Mayor-elect Kate Collins' efforts to really do all in their power to address many of our safety and societal issues. They're working hard behind the scenes, and I know this because I've been involved in some of the meetings and committees that they've been heading up and actively involved in. And so I've got to tell the San Rafael community that you're very fortunate to have these very capable and passionate individuals working on your behalf. And so I'm proud to be associated with this effort and the many efforts that are drawing down risk in our communities and basically showing the world that San Rafael is certainly a place to be reckoned with and a place of progress. And so thank you for the great introduction. If we could go to my slides, I'm going to kind of start out with just a brief presentation and kind of some highlights about what we're specifically doing in the San Rafael Fire Department. But I thought I'd start with basically a couple of really beautiful images. The first image is the Public Safety Center, which we just started occupying this past July and August. This is a real testament to what I believe is the focus and commitment to public safety and to the individuals that serve the community. We have state-of-the-art facilities between the Public Safety Center, Station 52 and Station 57, designed by award-winning Mary McGrath and Associates. I got to say, I'm just fortunate to be able to walk into a situation like this and to be able to be part of something that's very progressive and something that's very committed to improving things. That being said, the Public Safety Center houses our Station 51. It houses the San Rafael Police Department and its administration, and it also houses the San Rafael Fire Department's administrative and fire prevention and emergency management personnel. And so this is really an impressive facility. And much like Station 57, it just received a national award, a Silver Place Award for innovation and design. I'm almost certain that we're going to see something similar happen in the near future for the Public Safety Center. It's really a unique facility with a lot of thought and design and planning and innovation that went into this facility. So if we can move on to the next slide. I thought I'd start one more time with another great image before I really got into the substance and the meat and potatoes of the things I'd like to share this morning. And so if you can see the next slide here in just a moment, you'll be able to see the beautiful backdrop along with one of our Type 3 fire apparatus that we use for wildland urban interface responses. And that backdrop is the beautiful bay and the San Rafael Bridge and our community from a vantage point that I've yet to visit, but would love at some point to get here and be able to take in this beautiful view. That being said, as we speak to fire department priorities and some of the things I, as the fire chief, are looking to instill and or build upon from retired Fire Chief Chris Gray, who believes strongly in ensuring that the department was trained, equipped, and that we were able to carry out the department's mission of helping others in need, both within and outside of our county. This apparatus is a very unique apparatus in that it can do what regular fire engines cannot do, which is traverse difficult terrain and get right to the source of a problem with any potential wildland fire outbreak. And so this is a very unique view. I really love this picture. I'm thinking about putting it in a frame. I like it so much. But that being said, I just wanted to start with a look at our facilities and our equipment, and also the view of the city. And so moving on, yes, you can please move on to the next slide. There is something that's really unique to the Marin County and San Rafael communities that I had heard from some of the staff in Oakland that they had always modeled what they were looking to accomplish with Oakland's wildfire vegetation management and or prevention activities. The Hills Emergency Forum, the Fire Safe Council, and others there really look to Marin County for some of their ideas and some of their innovation and progressive thoughts on how to reduce risk in the Oakland community. And so when I got a chance to get here and work directly with the other fire chiefs and many of the folks that are committed to reducing risk in Marin County and San Rafael, I started to understand just how serious and focused the community was, and especially upon seeing Measure C pass. I've got to tell you, that's huge. This is something that really is going to help our community reduce risk and stay safe, in my estimation, for years to come. And so I thank everyone who voted to support both Measure C and Measure R, because these are things that are actually going to empower the fire department and our emergency and disaster preparedness staff to actually deliver on the promise of reducing risk so that we don't find ourselves in a situation that we're seeing happen in the North Bay and throughout other areas of the state. So that funding is key. That funding helps to deliver to the city of San Rafael roughly 4.5 million estimated every year. And I made a mistake there. The core allocation is 60%, should really be more around $2.7 million. The complete anticipated funding is $4.5 million. And so we have 3 pots of funding that we're going to be using to reduce risk. And we've already been actively underway just after my arrival. The Measure C had already passed, and we were looking to start quickly getting some shovel-ready projects, highly visible projects, but yet meaningful projects completed with 2 of the 3 pots that were not the bigger lift, or should I say the longer taking requests for proposals or other efforts that would take more time and require more collaboration across all 5 of the zones within Marin County. But basically, we were using the 2 pots that have 20% allocations for defensible space and for local agency specific projects. And so with that, those 2 funding pots have been really huge in helping us to staff additional park rangers, to staff additional wildfire mitigation and emergency preparedness specialists and vegetation management specialists. In addition, we've hired defense and temporary seasonal defensible space inspectors. These individuals have been, I've received nothing but compliments and letters and calls of appreciation for the help that these individuals have provided to our community members who basically are trying to learn how to become more fire safe, or just impressed by how these individuals comport themselves. And so it's a testament to our ability to hire quickly, but hire qualified and talented and committed individuals. And so I'm just really encouraged by that. We also have the benefit in using some of these pots of expanding our efforts through mechanical reduction means and other means like goat grazing. And we've done that through the assistance of NCCC and AmeriCorps crews, which we have 2 crews that are still here that just joined us starting October 29th. And they're working in areas of San Rafael currently to help continue to reduce fuels and reduce risk. In addition, this year, I saw the need for us to expand our effort, understanding that we were only getting to roughly 1/3 of our parcels out of 9,000 parcels annually. That leaves quite a bit to be desired and to be completed. And so with that, I spoke with the SRFA, the San Rafael Fire Association, to get our engine and truck company personnel out to conduct what are considered neighborhood surveys to really assess those areas in the community that maybe we were familiar with, or maybe hadn't really paid as close attention to that we should, to see who could really benefit from the focused effort, inspection efforts of these defensible space inspectors, so they could get out and conduct thorough inspections in those areas. And so this will be an ongoing effort, and it probably will not wrap up until, my guess is sometime probably next summer. But at that point, we will have gotten a look at all the parcels and forwarded and prioritized parcels for future attention using our vegetation management specialists and other staff. And so this is a huge effort to just really get a look at the problems that we didn't really know about, and to probably devise a solution and a systematic approach on who we're going to engage and why, and how we're going to compel compliance in those areas so that the entire community and those neighborhoods are safe. And so we can move on to the next slide. Notification and evacuations. These are really huge parts of the San Rafael-centric wildfire prevention and protective action plan, but it's also an important part of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority and our county-wide efforts And to be honest with you, not just our own county, but other adjoining counties' efforts as well to ensure that proper evacuations, safe and timely evacuations occur. And so this is really a bigger lift. This is the lift that I was referring to with the core allocation of money that is going to require more time, more effort, but yet affect a wider audience than just a local agency specific project, for example. So we're currently using Alert Marin to get out messaging. We're using Nixle. We also have recently, through Fire Safe Marin's efforts, acquired about 1,000 National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association radios. And these radios, specifically for San Rafael, will number somewhere around 200 radios, and we're hoping to identify the leaders of Firewise communities and other neighborhood response groups to perhaps let these individuals use these radios, which I won't go into a lot of detail right now, but they're going to be a redundancy in our effort to make sure that the community is notified in the event cell coverage goes down, there's a public safety power shutoff, and your other means of receiving a notification are compromised. These radios will actually be functional. They have backup power, and they'll be able to actually only transmit when there's a imminent emergency that individuals need to be reactive and aware of, so that they can share information with neighbors and others in the event there's not a way to receive the information through another avenue or channel. But one of the real important things I wanted to really speak to that I know is on everyone's mind, especially considering what happened a couple of years ago in Paradise in that community, which was a fairly well-trained community when it came to practicing for evacuation. Some of you may be familiar with the fact that Paradise had actually exercised. They were one of the few communities in the state who had exercised evacuations. They did it by zone. What Paradise had not done was a mass evacuation exercise, because no one ever anticipated they would need to do a mass evacuation. They thought a systematic, organized zone by zone evacuation would be all that would be required. And so this is a major concern for especially more populated communities with maybe narrow roads or only one or two ways of egressing and accessing areas for first responders and or for immediate evacuation. And so recently, I was aware of a product called Zone Haven, which has been working in Santa Clara County, Santa Cruz County, Sonoma County, Alameda County, and a few others, that actually is using a platform that's allowing for zone-based application and or mass evacuation. And Zone Haven is partnering with others in law enforcement and Office of Emergency Services or Emergency Management to basically collaborate together and jointly design and build and maintain the evacuation plans for those communities, and actually be able to exercise those evacuation plans to make sure that they tweak them with unique information that may only be available by that specific community. And so we're into preliminary discussion. We had a demonstration provided to the Marin County Fire Chiefs Association just back on October 15th. I think everyone was impressed with this product. They used it recently at one of the recent fires in the Napa area, and they also used it earlier this year in Santa Cruz, and everyone's touting the value and importance of this product. And so I think there's going to be some future discussion with law enforcement to ensure that they're in on the value and the importance of this tool. And then we may be looking to provide Zone Haven with an opportunity to deliver on that really, how should we say, extremely important aspect of disaster preparedness and emergency management. And so just wanted to touch on that briefly. I know there's going to be more questions or conversation regarding that later on, but this is really important, as this is some of the work that we're working on currently as we look to address and utilize the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority funding that we have at our disposal. If we can go to the next slide. Community risk reduction. I've got to say that I'm thoroughly impressed already with the efforts that Chief Gray and the City Council and that the community had already, the Wildfire Advisory Task Force and others had put together in the way of developing a wildfire prevention and protective action plan. This action plan has about 38 action items, and a lot of the MWPA funding will help support those action items. The continued expansion of our Firewise communities and home hardening efforts, messaging, public outreach, and public education will be directly supported through the MWPA and our hiring of additional staff who will come out and be able to work on a year-round basis as opposed to a seasonal basis or a part-time basis. And so that's really important. One of the other things we've been doing is having significant conversations with PG&E when it comes to the placement of their high-definition cameras in some of our high-fire threat areas. And I had a recent conversation with Mr. Jim Wickham, who indicated that he'd also like to get with some of the homeowner associations and see how they can partner in the effort to help position in place and or monitor some of these cameras. As you know, it's kind of difficult to be able to monitor 24/7 every potential area where there might be some risk or some concern, but they're certainly willing to enter into the conversation, and they've already done an amazing job of putting a lot of cameras in place throughout our community, and I think they have some others that they're looking to place in 2021 as well. Another community risk reduction effort that I was really impressed with prior to my arrival was the Emergency First Responder Referral Program, and then the initiation of the Direct Connect pilot program, which links the individuals who are maybe frequent users or who have some behavioral health or other vulnerability challenges. That program was connecting individuals with key resources so they would not continue to impact the 911 system in response, and then hopefully be connected with the sources that could provide them with long-term assistance. From what I understand, that pilot program was really seeing a lot of success in a relatively short period of time. Unfortunately, the pandemic struck, and I think all of those things were put on hold temporarily until we could kind of sort our way through the pandemic and how we could still provide services safely and effectively. And so I believe there's a new effort underway to utilize the Direct Connect pilot program and those individuals and connect them with public safety emergency calls for service work group that's just been established. And so I think there's going to be a lot of tremendous work coming from those groups moving forward. And we can move on to, I'm sorry, I wanted to mention something else too. One of the things we've done that's been unique, and I think Supervisor Connolly may have mentioned earlier some of the efforts we were taking on a countywide basis, is the use of pre-positioned resources during red flag days. That's really been huge in numerous communities. And basically what it is, it's a request for the state when we see red flag conditions with low humidity, high winds, elevated temperatures, and other considerations that are calculated to arrive at the idea that we may have an elevated risk or severe threat pending. We place a request through the state to ask for pre-positioned resources, where we basically have a task force, which is a group of units that are staged and ready for action in the event something is to occur. They're already a force multiplier that can get onto the scene and help reduce the magnitude of an incident relatively quickly because they're already pre-assembled. So those resources we've been using during the red flag days and will continue to do so as conditions dictate. And so I just want to make everyone aware that there are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that you may not be aware of, but we're doing everything in our power to try to be prepared and to be ready in the event something does occur. If we move to the next slide, I want to just give those who have not had the opportunity to visit the Public Safety Center a glimpse of our Emergency Operations Center. And that in the background there, you'll see our Emergency Manager, Quinn Gardner, who's really phenomenal at getting so much done in the way of disaster and emergency preparedness and fire prevention. I think she's one of the more talented individuals I've come across during my journey in the fire service and with those folks that I've worked with in emergency management. And I'm so thrilled to have her as part of our team. And so with that, I don't want to belabor the point, but I just want to give you a glimpse of what was done just prior to the election election day, Tuesday, November 3rd. Quinn staged everything that needed to be staged in case we needed to partially or fully activate the Emergency Operations Center based on our anticipation of possible unrest or demonstrations or protests. And so with that, she took into consideration social distance and actually put the EOC through its first series of paces in the event we needed to activate, tested the systems, and ensured that everything was working so that we all have a common operating picture, whether we're emergency management, whether we were law enforcement, whether we were fire, whether we were city leadership, and whoever else was to be staffing as participants and stakeholders in an event. And so just wanted you to get a glimpse of that state-of-the-art facility now that we have at our disposal here in San Rafael. So we can move on to the next slide, and just want to briefly speak to our involvement with homeless encampments. As you can imagine, our fire service personnel are from time to time, and sometimes quite often, called out to homeless encampments for any number of reasons, including medical emergencies or actual fires. And so with that, there's been a team assembled, and I'm sure Mayor-elect Kate Colin will speak to a little bit about this during her presentation shortly. But this is really a concerted effort of individuals to ensure that we are addressing the risk, but also providing assistance to those homeless individuals in a sensitive manner, but protecting our community simultaneously. And so that collaboration involves multiple individuals that are from Public Works, our Downtown Streets team, the Mayor Kate Collins, City Manager Jim Schutz, our San Rafael Police Department Rangers, Marin County Public Health officials, Caltrans, Senator McGuire, and more. For those of you who don't know, they've been doing a phenomenal job of ensuring that they reach out to those who are decision makers and who have influence to do their utmost best to address the concerns of the constituents and the community members. And so they're not sitting silent or not just not really exploring all options and opportunities. They're doing everything in their power. And I think above and beyond what I've seen happen in other communities to try to get to the resolve and to some meaningful outcomes that will satisfy the constituents, but also help those who are homeless. And so with that, I just wanted to point out that the fire department has an active role in some of that and sharing our concerns and trying to ensure public safety. And so I just wanted you to know that the fire department has a peripheral role, but we have a role nonetheless. If you could move on to the next slide. Fire department priorities. You know, the fire service is evolving. As you can imagine, you know, our response to hazardous materials, to specialized technical rescue things, to now having to have an active role in how we address a pandemic, you know, something that was unprecedented for any of us going back for the last century or so. So we're making adjustments and we're trying to do everything in our power to ensure our own personal safety while we deliver the highest level of service and to help others in need. But with that, you need some things to continue to happen in the fire department so that you're not overwhelmed and somehow find yourself in a situation where you're not keeping up with the profession and what those things that impact the profession. And so, you know, I can say certainly that we're seeing an increased rate of cancer and behavioral health issues in the fire service. And this is nothing new. It's been going on for some years now. When I was safety officer in Oakland, I actually did a lot of studies on behavioral health issues and cancer in particular, and ultrafine particles and their effect on our members who did not understand when and how they were at risk. And so these things continue to plague and be a problem for members in the fire service and those who retired who are battling cancers and other mental health issues. And so, you know, we're doing our best to try to provide training to our members so that they understand what resources are available to them that can help them and help protect them during their journey as firefighters, and or hopefully to continue on as resources and aid for them once they have departed their careers and gone on into retirement and other professions or other activities. Some of the other training that I think is important is our back to basics, our bread and butter operations. I want to ensure, you know, as a former safety officer and as someone who's watched over the years things happen to our members, I want to ensure that we're training much the same way that the military trains. You have to be ready. Even if you're not deploying, you're not going to war, you have to train and be functional, capable, so that when something occurs, you're ready to respond and you're ready to actually provide that level of service, whether it's emergency medical service or whether it's something relating to structure fires, wildland fires, water rescues, hazardous materials response, and so many other things that we're confronted with. And so that is a definite priority of mine. I've had conversations with my command staff recently about giving a look at what our master calendar, our master training calendar is going to look like for 2021. keeping in mind that we have a pandemic that we're in the midst of, and how can we safely continue those training efforts, whether they be virtual or whether they be in small pods or otherwise. We still have to continue with our ability to ensure that we're able to protect and assist the public. So, but from an individual basis, there's some things that I think need to happen also within the fire service. I know they've been important during my journey, and they're going to continue to be important for those that will serve this community for decades to come. And so leadership and supervisory experience, as you can imagine, in a paramilitary organization, there are some things that really need to happen day in, day out when it comes to management of personnel, evaluation of personnel, performance appraisal, and or just any number of other things that can provide some challenges for us on a legal basis if we make missteps, or provide some other fiscal challenges for us if we aren't really being smart about the things we do. And so I'm also here to support formal education for our members and encourage it. I really know the value of workshops, project involvement, and attending conferences. I'm not sure how we're going to really do that. We're a smaller agency, but there's got to be a way to get some individuals the opportunity to go out and network and learn what's going on, not just locally, but statewide and then nationwide. There's so many progressive things that are happening right now, and I want the San Rafael Fire Department and its members to be part of that and to be aware of those things and to plan and anticipate, if not participate in some of those things. And so that to me is just really going to be huge as the department continues to deliver the highest caliber of service to the San Rafael community. And so as I wind it down, I just want to go to the next slide and point to some of the Point San Pedro focused efforts recently that staff shared with me. I've been advised that we've helped parcel owners behind San Pedro Elementary School, for example, to ensure that they have a more regular or frequent schedule that's annual but consistent. The Fire Safe Marin Chipper Days that were held, 32 homes in Glenwood. Country Club had 26 homes, and Bayside Acres had 19 homes that participated. In total, they removed 483 cubic yards of vegetation. That's a pretty substantial amount. However, through our city-run Chipper Days, I was told only a handful of homes participated from Point San Pedro Road area during the last 6 months or so. And so, you know, I really encourage everyone to take full advantage of this resource. I'm actually contemplating, instead of relying solely on Fire Safe Marin, maybe we need to consider our own chipper crews that can go out and provide this service to the community on a more frequent basis so that we continue to remove fuels more regularly. So please spread the word that we really encourage and appreciate everyone coming out and using these chipper days, because we know how valuable and important they are. Last but not least, on the last slide, we can move to the next slide. There's some areas outlined on the Partridge Drive, Biscayne Drive, and Point San Pedro Road where we've actually done some AmeriCorps work in and grazing to try to ensure that we cleared continuous fire breaks in those areas. We also have some areas in the Peacock Gap Park area where we've done some fuel removal as well. So I just wanted to speak to some specific things that are going or that have taken place in that area. And speaking with our vegetation management staff, a couple other things they're considering moving forward are possible grazing of the area and working directly with landowners who have properties that are connected so that we can create a continuous fuel break. And so I think those will be more conversations coming up with community members as we move forward. Maybe in the park areas, we'll be replacing some of the grills and or doing some coal disposal through the proper containers or cans that can do so safely. And so with that summarizes my report. I hope I didn't take too long, and I certainly am happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much. It was a very thorough report. We are running a little behind. And I know Colin is our new mayor-elect is getting ready to make her comments, and we still have all of our committee chairs to do their comments as well. So I am looking to see about questions here. We could take probably one or two. One question is there anyone looking after the buildup of biomass in China camp? Fire is a big concern. So I think you did talk about that already a little bit, but I wanted to just see if you could just say a couple words before we go on to our next speaker.
Well, I have had conversations recently with staff about China Camp and some of the challenges there, and whether or not we could look at the state and compel the state to assist with some of the fuel removal efforts in that area. But I understand there's a Friends of China Camp coalition also that works to remove fuels and keep some of the parks clear and some of the campgrounds, how should we say, vegetation free to the best of their efforts. But I think there has to be a more expansive effort from what I understand. And so with that, I think we're looking to engage the state to see what, if any, resources they will be able to help assist with reducing fuel in that area. I don't know that Friends of the China Camp area is going to have the ability to do this all by themselves, but that's one of the things we've talked about recently.
Okay. I think that there's one other question in the Q&A that I'll see if Mayor-elect Colin can answer, and because it's kind of, there's overlapping questions. So I think at this point, I just want to thank you very, very much. I've got some accolades here that have been sent to me. I want to express the appreciation of the community to you for being here this morning. And we hope that we see you again at a future meeting.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. All right. Appreciate it very much. And then if we can bring Mayor-elect Colin on so I can introduce her. Good morning, Mayor-elect Colin. Thank you for being here with us. I will keep this brief because our time is running short. I just wanted to give a little background that I learned from your bio. You've lived in the Sun Valley neighborhood since 1996. Of course, we all know that you were just elected mayor in this most recent election, after having served on the Planning Commission for 8 years and on the City Council. Most of us probably know you in your role as a City Council member. Speaking of the City Council, before I have you speak, I did really want to give a shout out to the current mayor, Mayor Phillips, because he has been with us year after year for this annual community meeting, and his dedication and his willingness to be there for us is so greatly appreciated. Also, a couple of your colleagues on the City Council are our neighbors. Andrew McCullough, who will not be returning. This is the end of his term. He lives here in our neighborhood, and he's just put so much effort into his community service. I want to give a shout out to Andrew McCullough, and also to Mary Beth Bushy, who again has been serving on our City Council and will continue to, and will be our representative as we move to district elections. So I just think it's a very exciting time as we move into district elections. I mean, district representatives. I'll have a whole different way of communicating with our representatives on the City Council and the new mayor. And with no further ado, I'd like to have our new mayor, incoming mayor, take the stage, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. So I feel like that cleanup hitter after having two amazing presentations. Thank you to Supervisor Connolly for all that great, very specific information to the neighborhood. And I'm really glad that Chief White could join us as well. There's been a lot of very specific questions about fire prevention and fire safety. And so we're really happy that he could attend and give all that great information. I did want to build on what Bonnie has already said. I've been fortunate to serve with Mayor Phillips, as well as Councilmember McCullough and Councilmember Gamblin. We've had a great time serving all of San Rafael. And I look forward to serving all of you in this new capacity. And Bonnie said, you know, we want people to get to know you. And I had this whole thing written out, but I want to pay attention to the time. So you'll have to invite me back and I will tell you some more personal stories. But building on what Bonnie had said, I was at the Planning Commission prior to joining the council. I've been on the council for 8 years. And before that, as I said, the Planning Commission, learning about land use issues. And really, when I look at what I bring to this new role and what I'm excited to bring to all of you is community engagement. Since day one, how do we connect with you? How do we meet with where you are? And it's different now because I'm meeting you in your living room. Yes, probably most of you still have your slippers on. I know I do. But how do we build on that and continue to connect both be transparent about the decisions we're making, but continue to get the information from you and to find out what's important to you. So we're going to continue to work together. And that's really looking in San Rafael specific. In addition, I've worked on cross-jurisdictional issues ever since joining the council. We talk about sea level rise, wildfire, racial justice, the pandemic, economic recovery, any of those, and we can learn from surrounding jurisdictions. So I've been a part of different committees, conversations to say, what are you guys doing? What are you doing in San Anselmo? What can we do here in San Rafael? And of course, thank you to the county. They have been incredible partners. The committee that Supervisor Connolly referred to earlier, the Marin Recovers, I've been a part of that and hearing what is going on in the county level. So really looking at building on the knowledge we have within San Rafael and building on the knowledge on the outside. And then finally, the last thing I'll say, in addition to collaboration, is really starting to talk about, which government you don't always hear people talking about, what are the things that we value as a community? And we all have our personal values. And the reason I bring that up in this forum and want you to start thinking about it is when we're making funding decisions or policy decisions, it really reflects our values. And we can only know that by having the conversation. So those will be the things that we'll get to talk about in the years to come. So with that, I will ask, I only have 6 slides, but they were the type of slides much easier for you to look visually rather than having me describe. And I also have to give a big shout out to the Point San Pedro leadership group for making all this happen. It isn't easy having it be virtual, and it's certainly not quite as fun sitting in our living rooms and not gathering together, but it's important that we still connect. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit government 101. Most of you I'm sure know this, but I think it's important as we move to districts. So this first slide is talking about our Marin County supervisors. We are so fortunate that for your neighborhood, we have Supervisor Connolly. I also want to mention that San Rafael is really fortunate because we have 2 other supervisors with whom we work. Supervisor Rice, which has a part of Bristol Park, part of downtown, and then Supervisor Radoni, the Canal neighborhood in East San Rafael. And what that means is I spend extra time talking to all the supervisors about the issues that serve or affect different parts of our neighborhood. I have great relationships with all of them and really look forward to continuing to work with them. On this little slide, you'll see that I added in a photo, Stephanie Moulton Peters. You might recollect, she was actually elected, seems like eons ago. In many ways, it was in March for the District 3. She will start serving in January. So that is one of the changes. Okay, next slide. So this is going to district elections. This was a change that was voted on a while ago. And again, with the pandemic, time, some things seem really, really far away. So I wanted to take a moment just to talk about where we are. On the left is a map of what's incorporated and unincorporated. And what's so interesting about your neighborhood, and actually really comes out in this meeting, is your neighborhood is a combination of both incorporated and unincorporated. And there's some streets, because I can remember back when I ran in 2013, one half of the street is in unincorporated and the other half is in incorporated. So people had different ballots depending on where they lived. The reason that's important is that we have to work really closely with the county. And again, you already heard Supervisor Connolly's report. He is so engaged and really understands these issues. So the map's on the left and now we have on the right. So 2020, this past election was the first district elections that went through. It was District 4, which is up at top, and District 1, which is at the bottom. So District 4, the new councilwoman, her name is Rachel Kurtz, and you can see she has the green area. And then Micah Gulati Lawrence, she is District 1. And again, you can look at these maps online. And as Bonnie already mentioned, Mary Beth will be serving District 3. Even though she was elected at large, she will start to fall into that district role. So of course, this begs the question, wow, there's a district that is wide open. There's no one in it. So when the new council convenes, so we will be sworn in on December 7th, you can tune in. We will have time to thank the current council members and the current mayor, and then we will be sworn in. We will be calling for applications. Most likely, we'll have a staff report about how to fill that role. And that was my spot, and it's a 2-year term. So more to come on that. If you don't already, promise me right now you will sign up for the city manager's blog. It's called Snapshot. And I wrote that at the end of my notes, but I wanted to mention it now because it's a great way to stay involved everything from what's going on at the council level, but also what's going on in terms of key neighborhood issues or key presentations that are coming to the council. Okay, next slide, please. So I know Supervisor Connolly already spoke to COVID, so I have 2 slides on this, and I'll just briefly touch on it because it's a little confusing. So as he mentioned, the state has us in the orange tier, but we are making choices, or the Health and Human Services has made a decision. We're going to be taking actions that more represent the second tier or the red tier. Our numbers are increasing. Unfortunately, we're seeing that nationwide, and it's really incumbent upon all of us to continue to have the safe practices that we've been doing, and we have to dig deep and keep doing it. And I get it. I mean, this is awful. It's hard. I don't know about you, but I'm actually, I used to be a 1 cup of coffee gal in the morning, and now I'm up to 2 to get going because it's not an easy situation, but we got to really pay attention, especially with the holidays coming up. Next slide, please. This is this is something I learned yesterday. This is hot off the press, so I wanted to share it with you because as we learn more about COVID, as we learn about the cases, I know for me, when I understand the context and I understand the data, I'm a little better at making sure I follow the rules. So just in case you're the same way, I wanted to share this with you. On the left-hand side is a breakdown of cases of how they were by ethnicity in the beginning and as they were now. So you might recall you read in the paper that we had cases at San Quentin and we had cases a lot in East San Rafael. Those are our frontline workers who are living close together, and they're out literally on the front lines. So if you look at the graph, and it might be too small on your screen, but I will tell you the green is the Latinx population and the dark blue is the white population. So as you go to the right, the increased cases are moving out of one population into another. And we know from contact tracing, I hate to say it, it's people gathering inside houses, it's people having parties. And so it's starting to change. So again, just be cognizant of that. The one on the right, this is why Dr. Willis, who is doing an unbelievable job keeping us informed and safe, this is the dotted line is their concern. That is why we've had a change in shelter in place. And had more restrictions. So I'm one of those people, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So these are 2 pictures. You can find both of these on the Marin County COVID Health and Human Services site. You can go ahead and search that and that will come up. Okay, next slide. Because I love graphics, you're like, okay, wow, that's kind of a bummer. Okay, what am I gonna do about that? Okay, well, here are 3 things. So Thanksgiving, we're gonna stay safe. I've been talking to my 87-year-old mom. She is not happy that we are not going to see her this Thanksgiving. I have 2 college students that are going to be coming back to my house, and there's no way that we could kind of make all the timing work. But we're going to celebrate the week after because, I got to have turkey with my mom. So thinking about what are the ways that we can do that. And I really want to really have you consider that. Again, recognizing this isn't easy, but we can think outside the box and still connect with our families in a way that's safe. Damon Connolly mentioned this, the shop local. Boy, our sales tax dollars, we all benefit from them as a community, as our government. It funds programs that are important to us. So in addition to shop local, think about this. Right now, I'd love you to commit to buying just 1 gift. Hopefully it'll be 2. Buy 1 gift in San Rafael. Go to Copperfields. You can actually order the book online. I just did this. Order the book online, walk in, completely touchless. They hand you the bag. It's great because you've given them the credit card already. So commit to doing that. We need those dollars coming back here. And of course, you all know, wear a face mask. And I recognize it's a little hard to know who we are or who people are. But that's all the more reason to connect, say, hey, it's Kate. How are you doing? And be proud that you're wearing your mask, keeping yourself as well as each other safe. Okay, last one. So that was COVID. And I would love to talk. I could talk, but I won't today. Each of these policy areas, I literally could take the entire hour and a half, 2 hours of this meeting. So you have to invite me back. But I did just want to touch on them very, very briefly. So economic recovery is a obviously big issue. We're in a big hole. Really, what are we doing within the city of San Rafael? We have an economic recovery plan that you can find online, and the changes that we've done regarding our fiscal policy, but also what are we doing to support businesses? A lot of work and conversation around that. Homelessness and housing. Chief White is right. There's always a lot of discussion. One thing I do want to mention, the reason that some encampments have become more visible for two reasons. One is the increased attention on our open spaces. We need to have that, right? It's rained, so we're all thinking a little bit better about it. But when it's so dry, we need to ensure that people are not up in the hills and they're down getting the services and the support they need. So people were moving out of the hills. That's one reason. The second one was the state of California said to local jurisdictions, including San Rafael, Marin County, Caltrans, told recent local agencies, you are not allowed to remove encampments during the shelter in place orders. So what happens then is people get used to being in a place. And I don't know about you, when I see encampments, I feel two ways. One, I'm horrified that our progressive, wealthy community has people living on the street as a human. That doesn't feel right to me. And as someone who wants people feeling safe, it also, I realize, impacts people's quality of life. People that are driving by, they're concerned. So we are working with Caltrans to address each encampments that we're seeing under the freeways. Those conversations are in progress. California, the state of California has still said to Caltrans, you're not allowed to remove those encampments. And they actually have, I don't want to say it's a carrot or a stick, I don't know which one, but it has to do with funding dollars. And we want to continue to receive those CARES dollars. And so we want to follow the state mandates. The only other things I want to say about homelessness, and recently Andrew Henning gave an amazing presentation to the San Rafael City Council. You can always go back and watch it online. But we have a really effective strategy for dealing with homelessness in Marin County. We've really focused on housing people first. It's called housing people first, and then wrapping them with services. And what we found is when people are stable, they actually reduce their calls for service. So EMS, emergency transport, we reduced that by 50%. Police calls for service, 80% in the chronically homeless population, because we've housed nearly 300 of the chronically homeless in San Rafael or in Marin County over the last 3 years. And I recognize that I can give you that data. And if you still see someone downtown, I agree with you. We need to do more, but we are doing, we're doing a lot, and we're continuing to get success. Part of what's on me and on Supervisor Connolly is how do we continue to share what we're doing with all of you, so you know the efforts that are going on behalf of the unhoused in our community. And finally, I will finish talking about homelessness by saying the vast majority of placements for people from homelessness to housing are throughout Marin County. It's in scattered sites. They're not in one building. The majority of the placements are outside of San Rafael. We are doing our fair share, but it really is across all of Marin. I will just quickly breeze through these because I know you still have other reports to get to. Climate change, again, Supervisor Connolly did an excellent job talking about sea level rise, why that matters to your community, but it's relevant for all of San Rafael. Wildfire prevention, I echo Chief White, Measure C dollars have really helped us address that, as well as, and I should have mentioned this under economic recovery, the passage of Measure R. Thank you all very much. That will give us some flexibility as we make funding decisions going forward. Racial justice, boy, a lot to say in that arena. Right now, I'm part of a Canal Policy Task Force working group with Supervisor Radoni. What are things that we can do to address issues that are impacting our Latinx populations more than other populations? Age friendly, we have started 2 years ago working with Marin villages and San Rafael villages on becoming an age friendly city. Hey, if it works for an 80-year-old, it usually works for an 8-year-old. So how do we start to embed good policies into our housing decisions? And finally, neighborhoods. I started out by saying, and actually you can end the share, I'll just finish up. Started out by saying that neighborhood engagement is incredibly important. And I'm really excited that in this new capacity, we'll continue to connect virtually but hopefully we'll get to see each other, as I say, IRL, in real life. Those days will come, and I look forward to it. So with that, Bonnie, I will turn it back to you, and thank you all for spending a beautiful Saturday morning with each other and with your Point San Pedro Coalition leadership to learn what's important. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a record fast presentation. I hope you didn't feel too constrained. I know you must be bursting at the seams with just so much you want to convey to our community. And I'm sorry, our time is limited. I do really look forward to having you come back and speak with us again. We are looking forward to working with you going forward as our mayor. So there were some questions that came in, some questions and some excitement from our community about having you as our new mayor. And so let me just quickly go through some of the questions that some of them are crossover, you know, ones that came in during the time that the fire chief was speaking, but maybe you can also address some of these. One is, do homeless seeking money and homeless camps in the fire danger areas or breaking down stolen bicycles qualify for calling the mobile crisis unit? And this goes back to what Damon Connolly spoke about. It's a crossover for everybody, homeless camps and.
Yeah, well, we're so grateful to Supervisor Connolly and for the additional hours of the mobile crisis team. So the mobile crisis unit really is for folks that are in crisis. So think to yourself, someone that looks like they're endangering themselves or endangering someone else. If you're not sure, please call 911, right? If you're not sure, please call 911. But if you see something that you don't think is an emergency situation, you can also call the non-emergency number at the City of San Rafael, the non-emergency PD number. And the reason I encourage you to do that is we are very data-driven. And so by having the data, if there's a lot of calls coming from, and that's why, you know, with the encampments, why we've taken the freeway ones, people were really concerned. And so we were able to bring in Senator Mike McGuire, who's doing a great job representing all of us. So that would be the time to call, as I said, the non-emergency. But if you're not sure, please call 911. We always say that. That is what our dispatch is for.
Okay, thank you. Question about the rise in COVID cases. The question is, understanding that cases are increasing and that there is more testing now. In addition to knowing how many people have COVID, is there a higher percentage of people who are being tested that now have the disease, and how does that look over time?
Okay, that is such a great question for Dr. Willis, but I will just do the top line. So the indicators of the tiers, those are actually, the tiers are decided on two separate indicators. One is testing, like you have to do enough testing, and the number of positive cases per 100,000. So both of those are part of the calculation. We have been doing great testing in Marin County. If you go and look at the state site, and actually the local Marin County site, it shows that we have an adjusted number. The reason we have an adjusted number is because of the amount of testing we do, and we're a small county. So you can continue to get tested. There are testing centers throughout Marin County. But yes, both of those are what determines the shelter in place orders. So I'm happy to talk further. Actually, whoever has that, you can email me. It's just Kate.Colin, Colin at cityofsanrafael.org, because I think it is important to understand, and I'm happy to talk further on that.
Great. One other thing that my question, and we recently had a presentation from Jeff Rhodes from Resilient Shore, a San Rafael nonprofit that deals with sea level rise adaptations and has been working on those issues. We had a very good turnout at that event and a lot of interest in that topic. And I was wondering if you could just talk about the city and county collaboration on those issues and long-term planning on that. Of course, the residents of this area are always concerned about short-term flooding because we have flooding along our road when we have king tides. And I noticed today in the IJ, there was an article about king tides. We have both short-term concerns about flooding and long-term concerns about sea level rise. And I thought maybe you could give us some comments about San Rafael's efforts with regard to sea level rise adaptations and also collaborating with the county.
Yeah, so we recently held a forum just on sea level rise, actually for the other side of the canal, east neighborhoods, East San Rafael neighborhoods. And that was an hour presentation. So I'm now going to have to summarize an hour
That's a
presentation
big question, I know.
into 3 sentences. But I want to build on what Supervisor Connolly said. The county continues to convene a group called Bay Wave, and that's important because let's talk about from the 30,000 foot level. So that is really having the conversation with, hey, what is Corte Madera doing? What is Nevada doing, right? Because we have to be in collaboration. If they mitigate or they adapt and we haven't, then water is like a system, right? We're going to have ill effects. So Bay Wave is the group that brings us all together. They've recently issued a vulnerability report. Well, recently, I think it was in 2019, that looks at each specific area and looks at our vulnerability. In terms of San Rafael specific, we continue to have incredible pump stations. I can show you photos. I'm not going to do it now, but they're incredible photos before we put in some pump stations of the flooding that were in East San Rafael. I mean, it was amazing. I'd forgotten. So we actually use those machines to keep flooding from happening.
When you talk about East San Rafael, are you talking about Southeast San Rafael or the Point San Pedro Road Peninsula? Right. This is something that that I know that the Canal District is often or has been talked about as East San Rafael. And so I was just wondering if you could clarify exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So the photos that we have are from the Canal, Bay Point, Spinnaker neighborhood. So those are the photos we have, but we also have pump stations out in Point San Pedro, out by Peacock Gap, that we continue to maintain, and they do a great job protecting us in terms of, to answer your question, Bonnie, in terms of the short term. In terms of the long term, right now, and this is a great segue because I didn't get to mention it before, right now we're in the process of updating our general plan 2040. Remember how I asked you to go ahead and sign up for the city manager blog? Go ahead and do that, because then you'll know when it's coming through the public process. It's just starting. In that document, there are many detailed, much specifics on how we're going to address sea level rise in the short and long term. That's our roadmap. So when we adopt a general plan, it's really the nexus, and it's how we decide where we're going to be putting our resources, funding, and staff. It new this year in the general plan is a line or a demarcation of where there could be sea level rise given at, I think it's the 100-foot level. So we are starting to incorporate it into our maps and have conversations about it. So if that's something that's interesting to you, I'm sure you already know that it's going through the process, but do come out and participate in the general plan conversations. They should be coming to the Planning Commission in February, March, and then to the council in March, April.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this wealth of information that you have imparted to our community, and look forward to future events with you and participating with us. So, and the opportunity to engage with you and have our community involved in that process. And
just seeing you.
Thank you. I wish we had more time. I'm going to move on now to having reports from our Point San Pedro Road Coalition committee chairs, and Alan Shavitz, our webmaster, is going to bring them all on so that they can each make their presentations. Alan is a committee chair as well as our webmaster, and so I look forward to hearing from him as one of our committee chairs. Kevin Haggerty is another committee chair who serves on our board. Kevin is chair of our roadway committee. And then we have a brand new committee chair of our wetlands committee. That's Winifred DeJohnny. Also, there's Winifred. Hi, Winifred. Good morning. And we also have a very active committee chair this past year. He came on about, a year ago. John Lenzer. Disaster prep has been huge, and so he's just done so much work over the past year. And there's John, And our quarry committee chair, Dave Crutcher, will be joining us as well. There's Kevin, and one more is coming, and I hope Dave will be with us momentarily. There he is. Hi,
There he
Dave.
is.
Thank you all for joining. So I don't know whether everybody's screen is the same, but since we have such a short time, and I want some Q&A for everybody. My screen, I'm just going to go in the order that everybody is on my screen. So let's start with Winifred. If you could unmute yourself and give us the latest on the wetlands.
Yeah, well, hello, everybody. I'm the chair of the new chair of the Wetlands Committee of the SPRC, and I want to thank everybody for attending this annual meeting and keeping abreast of matters of direct interest to all of us. And the Wetlands Committee this year, it reinvigorated itself by updating its webpage with a lot of help from Alan Shavitz. I always like to give a shout out to him. And now if you visit the wetlands page, it gives a more consolidated overview of the chain of wetlands that interlace our neighborhood. And we also added a local bird life section there for easy identification information about the most commonly seen, or most of the most commonly seen birds that you might see when you're out around and walking. So please go and check it out. We're really proud of it. And also this year, we've been really pleased to host some excellent presentations. We've hosted 2 already. One was given by Rich Cimino about the Vox's Swift's migratory stopover at the McNears Brickyard. And we were able to get a videographer out there. So we had some recorded live footage. And then Rich, who goes out and monitors that area every year and counts the birds, gave an excellent overview of them and their migratory cycle and a lot of interesting information. And then Jeff Rhodes from Resilient Shores gave a follow-up presentation about sea rise levels in our area and how it impacts us directly. And that also got a lot of favorable response. They're both excellent. And so if you missed either of them in their live version, they were recorded and those recordings are now available. So you can go access them through the website. And then we're offering, Rich is going to come back and do a wrap up the year with a final presentation on December 1st, around 5 or 6. We haven't decided quite yet, but we'll be sending out an announcement. And that's going to be about winter shorebirds. So, a very relevant topic. So we're hoping that you'll all come and attend that because I'm really looking forward to it myself.
And that's going to focus on our neighborhood.
Our neighborhood.
Right here, really local, just so what
Yes.
you actually see in our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thank you, Winifred, for all of that.
Yeah. And so anyways, I personally became involved with the wetlands because I'm out walking a lot every day. And, I see these beautiful areas in person and I wanted to become more involved in safeguarding them and raising awareness about them. So that's our mission in the Wetlands Committee. And we're already looking forward to 2021 and planning some educational and some conservation initiative, particularly with the Bayside Park that's being renovated. We're going to be proposing some interpretive signage there and also in the Loch Lomond Marina wetlands. So if you also love and value our wetlands and want to participate, please contact us. We'd love to have you join our committee. And you just go to the website, the SPRC Coalition, and click on wetlands and there's a contact form there. So with that, without any further ado, I will pass the forum on to the next committee chair.
Okay, let's go with Alan next.
Thank you. I think I have 3 things on my agenda I'm supposed to talk about. One is the Loch Lomond Marina. Not a lot I want to say there. We have a meeting with the city agencies every month, now also including the new owner of the marina portion of Loch Lomond Marina, Safe Harbor Marinas, every month. And I publish the results of the meeting online, so I won't bother you with the details. A lot has happened, none of which has happened on the ground. So you don't really see much of anything going on, but a lot of things have happened in the background, and we're hopeful that some real progress will be visible starting next year. The second thing is the website. It's been mentioned a few times. Please join the website, go look, take a look at things. We post information all the time. Links to important things. The videos that Winifred mentioned are available on there. And of course, the drop-down contact us menu allows you to send an email to any particular committee chair or to the board. Third item I was asked to talk about was the cell tower. That was mentioned and talked about by Damon. The only thing, there was a question saying, someone asked what was the reason why it was denied, and Damon didn't really cover that as much. There were a number of reasons, one of which, probably the primary one initially mentioned by the zoning administrator, was the aesthetics, the style, size, and design was incompatible with the environment that it was put in. Second most important item mentioned at that time was the view blockage by a number of people in the area. When it progressed from the zoning administrator to the planning committee, commission rather, to ultimately the board of directors, the reasoning kind of grew a bit to also encompass the fact that there was not a noticeable set of documentation by AT&T as to why they picked the least desirable location for a cell tower, namely in a residential area, and why they didn't look at some other locations that might have been more compatible. There were a few other reasons mentioned as well. That, I think, completes my report.
Thanks very much, Alan. John Lenzer, there's so much on disaster prep, and just I wanted to let you know that there was a question in the Q&A about juniper hedges in the neighborhood, and just to throw that in there, that was one of the items that came in the Q&A, but you have lots to cover. So John, if you'll unmute yourself and give us your report, that would be great.
Unmute, okay. Yes, as you all know, Marin County is somewhat in a vulnerable position. We have two bridges that are connect us to the rest of the world. We also have a freeway, that Highway 101, a single freeway that has lots of overpasses that could come down. And so as we think of disasters, we sort of orient ourselves toward earthquakes. And certainly Marin County could be cut off for some period of time for the outside world. Even if the bridges and the freeway are passable, they're going to have to be evaluated, and we could be out of help for several days or even several weeks. If you look more locally, Point San Pedro Road has, an access through China Camp, and they also have an access up by the high school. But if those were ever cut off due to flooding, due to fire, due to slides, one thing or another, road sinkage, again, we would be on our own for some period of time. And at any moment in time, San Rafael has maybe 23 firemen, paramedics on duty. And as you know, Engine 55, perhaps we have 2 or 3 personnel there. But if we were cut off, that would be sort of it. So we have to prepare to somewhat be on our own. So this year, our first priority has been to pre-position medical and emergency supplies at 3 locations along Point San Pedro Road. And to support the effort, in March, the committee raised over $10,000 donated by individuals, HOAs, and the coalition. We applied for a $4,000 grant to the county and received that. So we have about, right now, $14,000 to spend on supplies, and we're in the process of identifying the supplies that we're purchasing and where exactly to position them. We have 3 places that we sort of are looking at and hope to secure. One is the Peacock Gap Golf Club. The other is the Marin Yacht Club, and finally a location in Glenwood. We can't really look at the schools, the elementary schools particularly, because if school was in session, you really can't go onto those campuses. So we have to look at alternative locations. We were able to facilitate an agreement between the Peacock Gap Golf Club and the American Red Cross. So the golf club now is designated as a refuge site. And if we had a major disaster or we needed to evacuate or have refuge over a longer period of time, the Red Cross could come in and gain access to the golf club and set up a facility there for us. So we're looking at that as one of the locations where we would supplement what the Red Cross does with supplies. Unfortunately, the training program that we had designed for 2020 was largely canceled because many of the training exercises require hand-on, like CPR. You've got to be hands-on with it. You can't hardly do it over Zoom. So we ended up canceling some of the in-person type of training. We have had a 1 hour to get ready that Quinn Gardner put on, and we'll be repeating that in the future. And our goal at this point for next year is to hopefully expand our training program when we again can meet. We're going to develop procedures around the 3 locations where we station supplies. One of those will be a triage center where we will have medical personnel arrive from the Marin Medical Corps and provide services. And that will, particularly if we have to be on our own. So our committee does meet monthly. And if you want to join the committee, feel free to send me an email, John, John, at Lenser, LENSER.com. Very simple. My first and last name, John at Lenser.com. We'll be meeting already this coming Saturday at 10 o'clock. We hold Zoom meetings and you're welcome to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That's great. And I also wanted to add that 1 hour to get ready is also available on the website. And you can reach the committee again through the website. If you forget John's email address, you can always do it through the website. So thank you so much for all your work and for the great report. Kevin Haggerty.
Hey, thank you, Bonnie. I want to talk, I'm chair of the roadway committee, and I just want to talk about 3 areas in which we've worked this past year. First one is Point San Pedro Road traffic and safety issues. And we've worked closely with the county and city staff to identify traffic, pedestrian crossings, and other safety issues, and then try to come up with some solutions. The solutions are often limited by available funding and opportunities. But let me give you several examples. The county recently installed a rectangular flashing beacon at Marina Boulevard, which gave pedestrians crossing the road at that point more visibility. They've also applied for a grant from the state to get money for some additional equipment that they could install at Summit Boulevard. Both of those locations are within county property. The city has worked with us in improving the crossings at Night Drive, Peacock Drive, and Riviera. Unfortunately, the city doesn't have the resources to do anything substantial, at least at this time. So they are going to be improving the signage. Hopefully that work will be done within the next month. We've been able to cut back some hedges and so forth that created a visibility issue. The second area is traffic congestion mitigation. And we're monitoring and providing input to Golden Gate Transit, which is the project sponsor for the new San Rafael Transit Center. And as Supervisor Damon Connolly mentioned, there is a meeting this Thursday. It's a Zoom meeting, and you can go to the Golden Gate Transit website and for more information about the link to access that meeting. At that meeting, their consultants will provide an update on the 3 locations, and you'll be given an opportunity to provide additional comments. We're also monitoring with the city and Caltrans projects that affect the peninsula, our peninsula's residents' ability to access the freeways and downtown San Rafael. And there's going to be some upcoming work on the Central San Rafael freeway exit. And I'll be providing some information to you once I get more information on that. A good thing is that we provided about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we provided a lot of input on the 3rd and Heatherton intersection. And I think as largely a result of our comments and those of others, if you've been in that area now, they've reconfigured, they've taken a crosswalk out, moved it to the other side of the street. They've added a couple lights, green arrow lights, and not only resulting in a safer environment for pedestrians in the area, but I think traffic flow has been improved. And so I'd like to think that we had something to do with that. Finally, the roadway medians and sidewalks, we continue to work with the city in making sure that the medians, the Point San Pedro medians are maintained, well-maintained, dead plants removed, irrigation system working, etc. And I think there's been a major improvement in the last year in that regard. We've also worked with the city and county to keep sidewalks clear of vegetation. And as Damon mentioned, when the wall collapsed on Point San Pedro Road, we were great advocates of having them do surveys on other walls in the area. And as Damon reported, we're happy to report that those walls are structurally sound. The last thing I had is that I know throughout the year, we get comments from a lot of people wanting to know why certain things can't be done, or the speed limit's too high, why can't we lower it? So one of our goals next year would be to set up a Zoom session in which we would invite the traffic engineers from the county and the city to come in and give you an update on what they're currently doing. And they would also be available to answer your questions regarding a whole range of different concerns you may have. So I think sometime next year, look for that to happen. Again, if you're interested in joining the roadway committee, as the other chairs have mentioned, you can go to the website and you can there's a place where you can contact me, and then I'll get back in touch with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. That's I know your committee's been very busy, and you in particular, really, of course, all really appreciate all your efforts to help us have a safer roadway. So
I just want to interject
the other day, and roadway safety is a big deal. We've had.
I just want to interject that Kevin mentioned the community meeting on the transit center. And you can get access to that if you go to the coalition website as well. We have a post that provides the link for that. There's also a survey link on that same post asking for input with regard to the transit survey, or transit center. So just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Dave Crusher, last but not least, on the San Rafael rock quarry. That's a huge issue. And sorry that we're running out of time, but we look forward to your comments.
Well, I will be brief then. I think I'm unmuted. Thank you, Bonnie. To expand on a couple of issues that Supervisor Connolly touched on, perhaps our most significant quarry issue is one that first hit our radar screens back in December of 2018. Then the quarry notified the public that it was requesting a 20-year extension of its operating permit. As a little bit of background, the current permit and reclamation plan generally contemplate that the quarry will be ceasing operations by the end of 2024. A reclamation plan is the plan that determines how the physical site will be cleaned up and put to use after mining ceases. And it requires the quarry to perform some of those tests before the mine shuts down. However, because the quarry has a right to continue mining, the permit does not require the quarry to shut down at any particular time. If they keep mining beyond 2024, however, they need to request an update to its 2010 reclamation plan by the end of 2021. The quarry decided to make that request at the end of 2018, about 3 years early. The information that had been provided to the county to allow the county to make a determination on that request was pretty basic. And in our view, it was insufficient. So we expressed some concerns about that, and the query in the past year or so pretty substantially supplemented the information for the county to consider. In addition, as Supervisor Connolly had mentioned, a consultant has been hired to prepare a supplemental environmental review to determine whether the query's proposal to mine another 15 or 20 years or so causes new or significantly more substantial environmental impacts than those that were identified in the environmental impact report that was prepared in 2009. If the additional mining creates substantial environmental impacts, then a supplemental or a subsequent EIR may be necessary. If the impacts are insubstantial, then merely an addendum to the 2009 EIR may suffice, which is a much less substantial undertaking. We at the coalition hope and expect that as the new year unfolds and the consultant produces his report, somewhere probably in the spring or summer of 2021, the coalition and the public generally will be allowed to weigh in, and we'll be following that matter obviously as closely as we can, since it's pretty important. Another issue of interest is air quality testing, particularly relating to dangerous silica dust that is known to harm lungs. For several years, the quarry has been testing air quality in large part through equipment that was placed on my property in Marin Bay Park. The county recently approved the removal of that equipment due to some testing results, as Supervisor Connolly mentioned. It came in under the benchmarks, or at least I guess the federal benchmarks, that would indicate a problem. Our primary concern is that as production ramps up, air quality is likely to be impacted. And we've learned that it's now practical and even economical to test air quality in the area with relatively inexpensive equipment placed in many locations. And we're looking into how the coalition might encourage and maybe even support that testing. Those are some of the major query issues on which we're now focused. We understand that the query production for just about a decade now has been in the 1/4 to 1/3 capacity range. But the query, as we understand it, expects production to increase over the next 5 or 10 years, perhaps substantially, due to sea level and other reasons, or at least projects related to sea level and other projects. And our concern is how that extra expected activity will affect the neighborhood and the county's approval of an amended rec plan. We'll keep you informed about this, and we'll probably have a lot more to report next year at this time. So that's it.
Well, I'm not seeing any new questions coming in on our Q&A. Thank you, Dave, for that report. I think we've been very thorough in our presentations, and I need to respect people's time. We were supposed to be done at noon, and we're over that. And I just want to thank all of our committee chairs, our presenters, and all the attendees for being with us this morning. Thank you, and I hope, I think that I just got a nice, some input. Fabulous job by all. Thank you, Henry. Thank you and goodbye. Thanks to everyone. Look forward to the next.